Welcome back. An affidavit containing a medical report by a doctor at Karen Hospital filed last minute in the petition challenging the impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has introduced new issues, prompting the court to set a day for its hearing. Thursday afternoon, the respondents urged the court to expunge the alleged medical record, arguing that it was inconsistent with the procedures, and be allowed to cross-examine the doctor who saw the affidavit to shed more light on the patient's medical records. And as Ruth Wamboi reports, the lawyers of the National Assembly and the Senate have maintained that the impeachment proceedings were done in accordance with the law as elected body.
When the proceedings came up for hearing on Thursday, lawyers representing Rigathi Gachagua further challenged the Senate's handling of the impeachment, particularly its decision to continue with the hearing despite his illness.
But again, look at the affidavit of Honorable Jerry Maina. Again, Honorable Jerry Maina is not any other person. She's an MP, a member of parliament, who sat all through in that parliament, who sat and contributed to that motion. When she tells you that in her constituency, there was no public participation, who am I to deny?
In regard to public participation, the intentment of the Constitution and of the citizens of Kenya when we promulgated the Constitution was that public participation must follow a process that produces nothing but the best.
The three-judge bench had the Senate improperly relied on internal standing orders requiring impeachment proceedings to be concluded within 7 days, yet no such timeline exists under the Constitution. The petitioners argue that instead of deploying the select committee route, the House chose plenary hearings, which was a procedural failure that violated the former Deputy President's right to a fair trial.
Even the concept of devolution is founded on recognition of culture and ethnic identity. Therefore, in the face of Kenya's diversity, the Constitution requires that various state officers led by the President should take into account ethnic and regional diversity in making public appointment and allocation of resources.
According to the affidavit by cardiologist Dr. Dan Gikonyo, President William Ruto called him directly to inquire about Gachagua's health on the day the Senate voted to remove him from office.
Mr. Mwite's senior counsel has had over 1 year, 2 years, to explain the whereabouts of the petitioner, to appear before Senate. And my lord, it is surprising that this affidavit comes almost 2 years after the adjournment by Senate on the 17th of October 2024. That is what I want to add, my lord. My lord, this affidavit is grossly prejudicial.
Can he confine himself to admissibility so that we deal with that issue? With regard to the other content, depending on what the court says, there will be time to go into it.
It states that Gachagua had been admitted to Karen Hospital between October 17, 2024 and 20th October 2024, suffering from severe chest pain.
Hospital records to prove that, which I told you are system generated. When you get the date of discharge, given at the top of that exhibit GDKG3, it is 20th November 2024, 1:36 p.m. More than a month later.
Jurisdiction.
And after Professor Githu Muigai submitted this evening as the first respondent, the other respondents sought an adjournment from tomorrow's proceedings, instead choosing to grill Dr. Gikonyo on Wednesday.
This is not accidental draftsmanship. These are deliberate constitutional choices that vest the impeachment power firmly and finally in the hands of Parliament, and not the courts.
The former Deputy President, who abandoned reinstatement, is now seeking compensation retirement benefits attached to the office and damages.
13th of May That is next Wednesday at 9 a.m. courtroom 418, our usual court.
Poking holes on the petitioner's submissions, the respondents have asked the court not to allow the invitation to substitute Parliament's decision but rather adjudicate the matter. The hearing will continue next Wednesday, whereby the cardiologist Dan Gikonyo is set to appear before the court and shed more light, as he will be cross-examined by the Senate and the National Assembly's Council. Ruth Wamboi reporting from Milimani Ceremonial Hall.